What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the TVP Hockey Cards channel. Today, what we're going to do is no rips or anything. We're going to do what we did when we first started this channel. We're going to chit-chat about some release here in terms of our product, and that's Series 2 for Upper Deck 2021-22. Upper Deck Series 2 releases in a couple of days, finally. Excuse me, the date got pushed back a few times, just like, Series 1, of course, was a little bit crazy there. But Series 2 was supposed to release, I believe, June 2nd or so, and or June 1st, and then it got pushed back to an undetermined time, and then there was rumors, and some websites had said that it was going to be July 6th. And then randomly last week, out of nowhere, came up that it's going to be actually June 15th. And then a couple of days later, the checklist dropped. And so what we're going to do is actually go over this checklist for Series 2. And man, the Series 2 checklist is awesome. So when the product came out for Series 1, or right before it came out, I remember I was waiting for the checklist. I was like, there's so many good rookies this year. I was curious what Upper Deck would do, because there was already rumors, and then it became official that there was going to be another extended series. Last year's extended series was absolute trash. Of course, there's always one or two guys that come out of nowhere, but I mean, the only main attraction last year was going to be Arthur Kaliev, and then Michael Bunting did well with, Matthews and Marner on the top line in Toronto, so his rookie card turned out to be okay as well. But the rest of those guys, majority of them probably will never, ever even play a game in the NHL. So the thought for this year maybe was like, okay, they might try to spread it out between the three different releases. So when Series 1 came out, it was a bit underwhelming in a way. There was a couple, of course, there's always the big couple that you got to chase, right? So Cole Caulfield, Trevor Zegras were the two main young guns to chase in Series 1. And what I was calling it the big five was those two, followed by the two goalies, which would be Jeremy Swayman and Spencer Knight. And then Jamie Drysdale kind of makes up the top five. Now, there's other good players. Tanner Jeannot's in that one. Shane Pinto has potential. Like, there's a bunch of other okay guys that, might eventually break up, down the road. Like, there's Cam York, Kalen Addison, a few of these kind of younger defensemen that, take a few years to develop. So there might be someone else that comes out of nowhere, but at this point, those are probably the big five. Of course, the two forwards are probably the best rookie forwards by far. And of course, those were the cards that were popular. But when that checklist came out, out of the 50 cards, the other 45, usually a majority of a checklist is really not that great. There's always, a couple of chase cards and a couple other decent ones you want to get your hands on. But looking at that Series 1, I remember talking to a few buddies. I was like, you know what? For Series 2, chances are it's going to be a loaded class. Then talking to a few different, LCS folks as well, they were saying that it's possible that they might mix up the guys between Series 2 and Extended Series, and that kind of made sense in a way that they don't want to extend it to be a crap product. However, when the Series 2 checklist came out, folks, it was nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through what the checklist entails in terms of what we're going after for rookie cards. There was the big three, in my opinion, that would be available in Series 2, and then there was rumors that maybe they would not be in Series 2, all of them, even though that made no sense. But the big three being Quentin, Byfield, Lucas Raymond, and of course Moritz Seider, all three are in Series 2. And here's the makeup of the Byfield card. Of course, the Cole Caulfield Young Guns card is going to be in this as well. However, there is probably about a dozen other really good prospects that, we'll go over them as well. And there was a few surprises, really big surprises for me that, to me, makes this set absolutely loaded. There's also a few surprise, exclusions as well. But we'll run through the checklist. The inserts are the same. Here's a Jamie Drysdale card. They're not any different than before. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at just the checklist itself. This is from Cardboard Connection. Here's what we're looking at for, a hobby box. Nothing out of the ordinary. You're used to getting the 6 YGs, the 4 canvases. You get your Dazzler, parallel in there, and then something random that you might hit. But when we get to the checklist, you will see that it is absolutely loaded. So when we look at the checklist, starting off, Mason McTavish is in. 451 is Mason McTavish, which blew my mind. Remember, he's like the third overall pick. I did not think he was going to be in this at all. Like, that was just not in my mind at all. I just figured he's going to be saved for next year for 2022-23 Series 1. Maybe if they're desperate that they would put it in an extended series, but lo and behold, here he is in Series 2. And, here's the other thing is, some guys, it's all about the hobby hype, but what's interesting is when these card prices come out, you'll see, people, once the checklist releases, there's like a pre-sale always like on eBay and stuff. Like, who comes up with these values? Like, I don't understand randomly when people set these values, because there has to be something to establish a market. And in some cases, some of these guys are going to be good players. There's a lot of first round picks that are in this series that are going to be phenomenal top 6 players. Mason McTavish has a lot of potential. He ended up, if I remember correctly, he was on the World Juniors, and then I think he went over to the Olympics as well. And I think he got into a couple games for Anaheim, but regardless, he's not a guy that was expected to be in here. So this to me is already a big chase card. The hype for him is not too much. He will have some hype when he gets to the league next year, or even the year after, perhaps. But I expect him to be there next year. But McTavish is a biggie. Also, before I go any further, I do follow prospects closely, but that doesn't mean I follow every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I follow all the main top-end guys. So there's always a bunch of random guys whose names I'm not sure of. I'm sorry. Usually I'm pretty good with names, but in this case, if I've never even heard of the guy, I'm sorry. So don't send me any hate comments or be offended that I messed up or butchered the name of your favorite team's prospect, because honestly, A, I don't care, and B, I'm trying my best, really. So we'll go through a couple of these really quick, but here's a big one, was Mason McTavish. Looking at the next few, Maxim Shushko of the Flyers, Taylor Radish of Tampa Bay. He ended up actually getting traded to the Chicago Blackhawks in the Brandon Hagel deal, and he had a pretty good run there actually on Chicago. Philip Tomasino, Brett Murray, and Nils Lundqvist. Now, Tomasino, decent player. He played pretty much with Tanner Jeannot on the third line for the most of the year, and Jeannot had more fantasy relevant numbers, I guess. Tomasino ended up putting up some decent numbers as the season progressed, playing on the third line for Nashville. So he's not a top end rookie, but again, it's a guy that played regularly all season. He was an NHL regular, so there's a possibility for a decent start there for his career. Brett Murray for Buffalo Sabres didn't play this year. I don't think he did. Nils Lundqvist, he's a highly touted defenseman. He's, usually for fantasy, he's like one of the top 10 young prospect defensemen that's there. Rangers, of course, had their deep run, just getting knocked out by Tampa Bay Lightning the other day. They got some great talent, man. They have some really good talent in the pipelines, and Lundqvist is just one of the next kids up. So he should eventually find his way to the blue line. And his card, to me, is similar to, in a way, what Alexander Romanov was last year. Actually, not even Romanov. Romanov's not a good comparison because he actually played all season. It's probably more like Ty Smith in a way, because I think Keandre Miller and Romanov ended up actually playing regularly last year, I believe, as well. Ty Smith, not as much, I think, because of injuries and stuff. He didn't play as many games, so he's got a lot of potential. Sampo Ranta got into, I believe, about 9 games. Karel Vejmelka for Arizona. Listen, he actually, if you look at his numbers, they look terrible, but he was actually not bad. Dawson Mercer, Jonas Ronberg, and Alex Newhook. So out of this group, Sampo Ranta got into about, I think, 9 games for the Avs at the beginning of the season. He's not a highly touted prospect, but he is still considered pretty solid. Vejmelka, like I was saying, he kept Arizona in some games, and he stole some games. Like, that team is crap. That defense is garbage, and the fact that this kid was getting peppered with shots all and that, like, he's no Swayman and no Knight, but it'd be interesting to see how he does if he actually has a good defense in front of him that can actually, save and block and, play defense. Dawson Mercer, another kid that eventually by the end of the year, he was on the top line with Jack Hughes. And it was playing pretty decent. He started off good at the, when he broke camp, that was kind of unexpected. And then he managed to kind of, have a good start to his career. And then he kind of, slumped, which isn't a surprise. And later on in the year, he picked it up. So Mercer is a great pickup as well in terms of that next tier of guys to grab in this series. Jonas Rundberg, don't know much about him at this point. Vegas prospect, and that should tell you as much you need to know because Vegas prospect cover is pretty much crap right now. Alex Newhook, Colorado Avalanche, another first-round pick. He's playing a pivotal role for them, mainly on the third line for the Avs on their Stanley Cup run here. And he's a player. He's the player that he's getting eased in here, getting the experience, and he might be a fixture in the top 6 as soon as next year. You never know. The Avs have a lot of free agents, and Newhook is a guy that could excel. He's played random games here and there in the top 6 when there was, Nichushkin or Burakovsky or some of these guys were hurt. Nichushkin is a free agent as well. Same with Kadri, and Newhook might have an opportunity depending on what happens in free agency to play a bigger role. So he is also another guy that in a couple of years might be one of the better cards in this series. And a few other guys, Vladimir, I always mess up his name, Kachev, I think, Jan Yannick, Lucas Raymond, Adam Rachitska, and another surprise, Cole Perfetti of the Winnipeg Jets. So, Kachev, I guess, considered a high-end prospect for the Kings at the beginning of the year. Didn't really have much of a role. The Kings, of course, made the playoffs, had a decent run, but a lot of their young guys were sheltered and only played on the third line, fourth line, which were mainly Byfield, Kaliev, actually, and Rasmus Kupari to a lesser extent. Jan Yannick got some decent time with the Coyotes, not as much as was expected. Lucas Raymond, there is one of the big chase cards, top 5 pick, had a phenomenal start to the series, to the year, and eventually he cooled off. But again, he's going to be, he's going to be a sought after card. He, along with Seider, the 2 Red Wings guys that people are chasing, original 6. So he is going to be one of the main chase cards, of course. Adam Ruzicka actually played decent for the Flames on the fourth line, got into some decent game action for this year, then was sent down and was, I think, called up and didn't play in the playoffs, but it kind of was there for the experience, I guess. Now, similar to McTavish, Cole Perfetti, again, he got called up, I believe, in January. I don't know what the cutoff was for Upper Deck, maybe because, the cards were delayed that they were able to sneak him in. I did not, for the life of me, expect him to be taken in Series 2 for this year. I thought he'd be put in for Series 1, maybe extended series. Actually, Cole Perfetti and Matthew Boldy were the 2, I think, that got called up in January. Both are first-round picks. I expected both of those guys to probably headline extended series. And that's not the case at all, because Boldy, actually, his card clearly is going to be in Series 1 for next year, because that was the mock-up design that was released regarding Series 1 for next season. And Perfetti, I was shocked that he's in here. So another chase card that, again, there's no hype or really around him. I mean, he's a top-end prospect. So if you know your prospects, you know he's a good player. If you're a Jets fan, you know he's a guy you guys are counting on to be a big part of your future. And I think in the hobby, there might be a lot of people that are sleeping on it because it's always about the hype. And sometimes it throws me off because certain guys, they're more hyped than others and they deserve it. But in some cases, some guys get way too much hype and I don't get it. Perfetti is a guy that's going to be one of the top cards in this series for sure. Jake Neighbors, David Ferentz, Moritz Seider, Mason Geertsen, and Igor Chenikov of the Columbus Blue Jackets. So Jake Neighbors, another first-round pick, another player I was not expecting to be in Series 2. I thought maybe against extended series, but I thought maybe he'll be safe for Series 1. Neighbors, game is a little bit like David Backes, I believe, power forward. He got into a handful of games for the Blues at the start of the year, then he was eventually sent down. He's, again, a guy that could be a fixture in their top 6 or top 9, I guess, the way the Blues play. They always have 3 nice scoring lines. So he's a player that, again, is going to be a decent pickup. David Ferentz had a decent season for the Nashville Predators this year. And then Moritz Seider, the card. Now, I would chalk this up to similar to Cale Makar in a way. His prices will be sky high. Red Wings, of course, are not at the same level that the Avs are, right? Like, the Red Wings are still in the rebuild. They got better this year, but Seider played like a veteran. Played against the top lines in the league, played against stars, played them 23, 24. It wasn't like he was playing like 12, 13 minutes. He was playing 23, 24 minutes a game, I think, and put up, I believe, 50 points, which is unreal. So that's a great, great rookie season. He is going to be the card you want to get after. Now, in terms of canvas cards, we'll talk about this more in detail later, but Moritz Seider's canvas card is not in Series 2. That's a nugget I was able to uncover. So that's probably something that will be an extended series. So there's your chase card right there for the canvas card. Mason Geertsen of the Devils, pretty much a goon. Lindy Ruff would put him in to go run over some people and all that, but whatever. He's got his rookie card. Chinnikov, up and down rookie season for the Blue Jackets. The way that team plays, he might be a top line guy, he might be a fourth line guy, who knows? So we'll see. Hendrix Lapierre, Jonathan Dahlin, Brandon Duheim, William Eklund, and I'm going to say Thomas Novak. Okay, well, I'll also include Boris Kachuk and Benoit Olivier Goulet. Hendrix Lapierre, another first-round pick, didn't play this year, but again, he's got a card already in Series 2 here for the Capitals. Pesky, a little bit the way he plays reminds me of kind of like how Alex Burrows was, or even, was it Maxim Lapierre, I believe was his name? The Pest played for the Canucks as well. Lapierre's got some potential. I don't know, similar to Connor McMichael, maybe he'll get sheltered minutes, but again, it's another top-end pick that might, turn some heads eventually down the road. Jonathan Dahlin of the San Jose Sharks, Brandon Duheim of the Minnesota Wild, both got pretty regular minutes this year in the NHL. I think they both played, you say close to full seasons. And then the next card, again, another high-end guy that I was not expecting in Series 2, yet here he is, William Eklund of the San Jose Sharks. Eklund, again, a top 10 pick. I think he was, 7th overall, I think? And he broke camp with the Sharks, and then they sent him down after the 9 games, but he was producing. And he is their best prospect. He is one of the best prospects that still hasn't played in the NHL yet, regularly. Should make the league next season. And again, similar to Perfetti, similar to McTavish, another big card that's not getting a lot of hype. And if you were able to find this card, I would jump on it because, again, his card's going to be cheap compared to some of the other guys that have more hype. So the next 3 guys, like Novak, Kachuk, and Goulet, I mean, I think they all play. I honestly don't know much about Novak. But they're kind of like those guys that are meh. They're all in there and not going to really matter, but we'll see. Dyson Mayo, Justin Richards, Vasily Podkolzin, Matthew Phillips, and Frederick Allard are the next 5 in here. Mayo actually ended up playing decent minutes for the Coyotes down the road and ended up playing top 4 minutes consistently for them. So he's a guy that was a decent defenseman, probably one of the better defensemen in this series, surprisingly. Justin Richards of the Rangers, don't know much about him, actually. Matthew Phillips for the Flames is, I don't even think he got into a game, so this must be like an exhibition shot they got of him if he's in this Flames jersey, because I don't think he played for the Flames this year, did he? I don't remember. Frederick Allard, I don't know much about him either. But Vasily Podkolzin ended up playing regular third-line minutes all season. Remember, he's a top 10 pick and had a lot of upside. So, again, another guy that he didn't play that well, so he's got potential. He did play well in terms of at times for the Canucks, and it wasn't like he is I don't want to stereotype, but sometimes some of these guys that are, that can go to KHL or some of the Russian players that are kind of lazy sometimes or don't try because they're expecting to be in, handed top line minutes or something. Vasily was far from that. He was actually a guy that plays similar to Nichushkin in terms of how he plays. Like Nichushkin always had potential on the Stars, and then he left, came back from the KHL, completely different player for the Avs. Very important, turned into a great two-way force. And maybe this is kind of what Podkolzin's working on as well. So we'll see. And again, another top 10 pick with a lot of potential. The next 5 guys, Ivan Prosvetov of the Coyotes, Jesse Lonin of the Montreal Canadiens, Gregory Hoffman, Jasper Weatherby, and Quentin Byfield. Now, again, Byfield is one of the top guards, and possibly to me could end up being the best player in this year. I know that's probably pretty bold, and some people are going to laugh at me in terms of comparing him to Cole Caulfield and Trevor Zegras, but Byfield is one of those guys. Don't forget, he was taken the 2nd overall after Lafreniere, and he would have been in, earlier in the year in terms of he didn't have his, I think it was his ankle injury he had that missed the majority of the season. And then the way the Kings were playing, he barely played. He only played, I think, 11, 12 minutes a game. Random games here and there, he would get time on the second power play unit, but otherwise he wasn't playing that much. He's a guy that didn't put up crazy points or anything, but he's a guy that, if you look at his career, every time he's moved up a level, he's actually struggled, and he's taken some time to learn, and then by the time he figures it out, boom, the kid breaks out. So I don't see why it's going to be any different. He's a guy that has a lot of prospect pedigree, and there is potential that, let's say 5 years down the road, he is the card from a forward perspective that people are after. Could also totally backfire, and that's fine too. You have Zegras and Caulfield. You have other guys, just so many guys that could be big players from this series. So next guy, the one actually card right after Byfield is, to me, he's probably the 4th best rookie to take behind Byfield, Raymond, and Seider in this series. Anton Lundell was part of the best third line in hockey with Mason Marchment and Sam Reinhart. Lundell's pretty much like another Barkov, man. The guy was actually killing penalties with Barkov. Was really having good performances, and there was, I think, a point where he had a point streak going. He had I think a 5-assist game or a 4-assist game too, or something like that. So then he missed some time near the end of the season with injury, and then in the playoffs he didn't really play as much. But kid's got a lot of potential. So another kid that might be similar to kind of like how Bo Horvat was, right? Like a two-way force, ends up being on the second line, and has an all-around game for them. You got William Lockwood, Gregory Denisenko, another prospect that had a lot of hype initially, but kind of died down, so I don't know if we can expect much from him. Jacob Peterson ended up actually playing decent for the Stars this year. Jake Leschyshyn for the Vegas Golden Knights. And finally, to round it up, we got Jacob Bernard Docker for the Senators, Pavel Dorovev for the Vegas Golden Knights, Maxwell Willman for the Philadelphia Flyers, Cole Sillinger for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Yuna Gadjovic for the San Jose Sharks, and the checklist is the Red Wing guys. And so out of these guys, Cole Sillinger made the team. I think it was a 12th overall pick last year. Again, he wasn't expected to break camp. I thought, maybe he might get sent down after 9 games. He ended up sticking. Had a pretty decent rookie season. Actually, even had his first NHL hat trick. So another good card to take in this series. There's a few guys to mention that obviously aren't in this. That Matthew Boldy, of course, has held back. Guys like Kent Johnson and Matthew Beniers did end up getting into NHL games at the end of the year. They're, of course, going to be probably the anchors of Series 1 for next year, along with probably Shane Wright, of course. So there's a lot of guys. Alexander Holtz is another big one that wasn't in this one at all either. So another guy that will be added to the series. So there's a lot of rookies. So, I mean, when you look at all these players, there's, I realize I forgot Oscar Steen, but it's okay. There's a lot of guys to chase in this series. Sillinger, Lundell, Byfield, put Coles in. Then you got Eklund and Lapierre, Seider, Neighbors, Perfetti, Raymond, Newhook, Mercer, Vimelka, and Mason McTavish. So it's a loaded series. In terms of the base Young Guns, these are the 14 guys that are available in that. And again, if you look at this list, out of the 14, there's probably like 2, maybe 3 I really don't care to get their, jumbo card, but otherwise the other ones I'd be fine with. I'll take McTavish, I'll take Newhook, Raymond, Perfetti, Seider, Lapierre, Eklund. Excuse me. So a lot of guys there. In the canvas, for the Young Guns, the 30 cards, you got Caulfield, Valeno are in this one. The other ones to go after is Jake Neighbors, Cole Sillinger, Lucas Raymond, Spencer Knight has his canvas in this one, Dawson Mercer, Eklund, Lundell, as well as McTavish. And then Jamie Drysdale is one of the other ones that are in this one as well. So it's a loaded series too, guys. So if you can get it, I'm sorry this video ran a little bit longer. I took a long time going through these prospects, and honestly, part of it I just kind of did off the top of my head. So my apologies if I screwed up some of the stats too, because I was trying to just think off the top of my head. I couldn't remember some of their games played and stuff. But man, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys to chase in this series too. So have fun, grab a box, hobby box coming out in a couple of days, and then I believe retail is actually going to be out before the end of the month as well, if everything goes according to plan. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and catch you guys on girls on the next one. Peace.